It was nearly midnight when Elena Markova stepped out of the glass elevator and into the silent upper floor of her corporate headquarters. The building, normally alive with ringing phones and confident voices, now felt like a cathedral, hushed, echoing, and strangely vulnerable. Elena, the woman the world called an untouchable billionaire, had stayed late reviewing a proposal that could shift the future of her company. But tonight, something else pulled her attention, something soft, unexpected. As she walked down the hallway, the faintest sound reached her. Not the hum of machinery, not the click of security doors, this was different. A gentle voice, low and rhythmic, like someone reading a bedtime story. Elena stopped. No one was supposed to be here except the night cleaning staff, and they rarely lingered. Curiosity tugged at her. She followed the sound to the storage room at the far end of the corridor. Light spilled from beneath the door, flickering like a candle. She hesitated for a moment, unsure why her heart suddenly beat a little faster. Then, quietly, she pushed the door open. What she saw made her breath catch. There, on the cold tile floor, sat Nikolai, the quiet janitor she had passed countless times without truly seeing him. His uniform was worn at the elbows, his hands rough from hard work. But now those hands were carefully holding a broken wooden toy, an old-fashioned train with chipped red paint. Beside him lay a small toolkit, most of the tools mismatched and rusted, as if borrowed or salvaged over time. But the most striking thing wasn't the toy. It was the small shape curled behind him. A little girl, no older than 6, fast asleep on a makeshift bed of jackets. Her tiny hand still clutched the sleeve of her father's shirt, as if afraid the world would pull him away if she let go. Her hair was braided unevenly, and her shoes were clearly secondhand, but her face was peaceful. She trusted this fragile moment completely. Elena's throat tightened. Nikolai didn't see her at first. He continued reading from a stack of papers, each one covered in neat handwriting. And then, he whispered, voice tender, the brave little train found the strength to climb the mountain, not because it was strong, but because it believed the children were waiting. He paused, testing the wheel he had just reattached. It wobbled, squeaked, then clicked smoothly into place. His tired face lit with a quiet triumph. Only then did he look up, and freeze. Ms. Markova, he whispered, scrambling to stand. I didn't hear you come in. He moved protectively in front of the girl, guilt flooding his expression. I'm so sorry. I know this is against the rules. Please, don't blame her. She had nowhere else to. Elena raised a hand gently. I'm not here to scold you, she said softly. But her voice caught on the next words, because in that moment she wasn't looking at an employee breaking protocol. She was looking at a father trying desperately to hold his world together. And for the first time in a very long time, Elena felt her own walls begin to crack. Nikolai's hands trembled as he gently lifted his sleeping daughter into his arms, as if he feared Elena might take her away simply for being here. The fear in his eyes struck Elena more deeply than any corporate crisis ever had. She had seen men panic over million-dollar deals, men sweat under pressure, men crumble under expectations, but she had never seen a man look this afraid of losing everything he loved. You don't have to hide her, Elena said quietly. Nikolai swallowed hard, eyes cast down. I shouldn't have brought her. But sometimes rules don't match life, you know. He exhaled shakily. She had a fever earlier. I couldn't leave her alone. And I couldn't afford to miss a shift. Missing one means losing the week. And losing the week. He stopped, his voice cracking. Elena waited. The silence felt gentle, not demanding. Finally, he lifted his eyes. We'd lose the apartment. He sat back down slowly, placing Anya on the jackets again, covering her with his own coat, thin, patched, but warm with a father's protection. With a weary sigh, he picked up the toy train again, as if repairing it might anchor him, keep his hands from shaking. This isn't her toy, Elena said softly, remembering his earlier words. No, he whispered, shaking his head. It belongs to a boy in our building. His mother works night shifts too. She's always exhausted. He cried when it broke. A tired smile tugged at his lips. I told him I'd fix it. He hesitated, then added, fixing things, it's what I'm good at. Used to be, anyway. He brushed a thumb over the train's chipped paint. Before the shop closed, before the hospital bills, before life rearranged itself. Elena felt a sting in her chest. She'd read thousands of business reports, yet nothing in her career had ever been explained so simply or painfully. "But why help this boy?" she asked. "You already have so much to handle." Nikolai shrugged lightly, eyes soft with a kind of hope that felt almost too fragile for the world. "If I can make one child smile," he said quietly, "maybe the world will be kinder to mine too." The words hit her like a slow, quiet thunder, gentle, but powerful enough to shake the ground beneath her. He continued, voice low. "People think kindness costs time, money, energy, but sometimes it costs nothing, just a moment, a choice. And that moment can stay with a child for years." His gaze drifted to his daughter. "I want her to grow up believing the world isn't always cruel." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Elena stared at the shelves of cleaning supplies, the mop bucket, the cracked linoleum floor, this tiny world of a janitor's life. And then she looked at Nikolai, who sat there with a broken toy in his lap and the weight of the universe on his shoulders, yet still trying to repair someone else's happiness. It humbled her, and for the first time in her carefully controlled, neatly structured life, Elena Markova, billionaire, CEO, titan of industry, felt the unmistakable stirrings of shame and admiration. Something inside her shifted, something she couldn't yet name. The next morning, Elena couldn't shake the image of Nikolai and his little daughter from her mind. The hum of her private jet, the sterile boardrooms, the piles of contracts, it all felt hollow compared to the quiet courage she had witnessed the night before. She found herself walking back to the floors she usually ignored, seeking him, not to confront, but to understand. She discovered him quietly sweeping the hallways, his movements methodical, almost meditative. His uniform was creased, but his hands bore the marks of late nights spent fixing broken toys, tightening loose wheels, mending torn seams. Elena watched from a distance as he paused, crouched over a small desk in the corner of the staff room, and examined another broken toy, a battered wooden plane missing a wing. She realized he treated each toy as though it carried the heart of the child who owned it. Curiosity became action. Elena asked around quietly, speaking to the night security guards and some of the other janitors. That's when the story unfolded. Nikolai once owned a small repair shop, a place where children's toys were brought back to life, where the walls were lined with shelves of wooden soldiers, wind-up trains, and dolls with hand-stitched dresses. But when his wife fell ill, medical bills and lost income forced him to close the shop. He took the first steady job he could find, a janitor. At her very own building, but he never stopped repairing. Every evening, after his shift ended, Nikolai wandered the halls, collecting broken toys left behind or discarded by children whose parents couldn't afford repairs. He worked by the dim light of a single lamp in the storage closet, mending them as carefully as a painter restores a masterpiece. He never asked for money. He never sought recognition. His reward was the tiny smile, the quiet laugh, or the whispered, "Thank you," of a child who had lost hope in small wonders. Elena felt a lump rise in her throat. She realized, with a jolt, that this man, this quiet, overlooked janitor, had built something far greater than any empire of wealth. He had built an empire of heart. Where she measured success in numbers, he measured it in laughter. Where she counted achievements in contracts, he counted them in moments of joy. For the first time, Elena understood that the greatest wealth could not be earned in boardrooms, could not be tallied in bank accounts. It existed in small, invisible acts of generosity, in the quiet, selfless decisions made every day by people like Nikolai. And in that moment, watching him carefully reattach the wing of the battered wooden plane, she felt a profound sense of shame and awe. She realized that she had underestimated the world's quiet heroes. That sometimes, the people who seem least powerful wield the most extraordinary influence, simply by choosing to care. Elena straightened, her mind racing with possibilities. There was a way to help, without taking the dignity away, without making a spectacle. But she needed to plan carefully. The night she had witnessed Nikolai's devotion wasn't just a coincidence, it was a calling. And she had been given a rare chance to make a difference. She took a deep breath and smiled softly. In her world of luxury and strategy, she had found something far more valuable, a lesson in humanity. A week passed. Elena had thought about Nikolai and his little daughter every single day. Every strategy meeting, every financial report, every high-stakes decision felt smaller in comparison to the quiet heroism she had witnessed. Finally, she decided it was time to act, not as a billionaire, but as a human being who understood the weight of love and struggle. She walked quietly into the building just after dusk, carrying a small envelope in her hand. Her heels clicked softly against the polished floor as she approached the janitor's closet. She peeked inside. Nikolai was there, hunched over another toy, a delicate wind-up rabbit with a missing ear. Anya sat on a pile of jackets, spinning a threadbare doll in her tiny hands, humming to herself. Elena cleared her throat gently. Nikolai. He looked up, startled. His eyes widened, and for a moment, Elena thought he might panic. Ms. Markova, I wasn't expecting anyone. His voice was a mixture of embarrassment and fear, as if he had done something wrong. Elena stepped closer, kneeling slightly to be at his daughter's level. I know why you're here, she said softly, smiling. And I want you to know, it's okay. Nikolai's hands shook. I can't let her stay here, she doesn't belong. You don't need to explain, Elena interrupted. She extended the envelope toward him. I brought you this. He hesitated, then took it, carefully sliding the paper open. Inside was a key, small, simple, unassuming, but it unlocked a workshop in one corner of the building's lower floor, fully renovated and filled with tools, shelves, and workbenches. A place where he could repair toys freely, safely, and properly. Nikolai's breath caught. His hands trembled as he stared at the key. This is yours. He whispered. No, Elena said, shaking her head. It's yours. You've already proven that kindness can change lives. Now, I want to give you a chance to help more children, to keep creating joy, and to give Anya a place to grow, to laugh, to dream. He sank to his knees, tears pooling in his eyes. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything, Elena replied gently. Let your actions speak. You've already taught me something very important. Generosity isn't about money. It's about heart. Anya, sensing the change in the room, ran forward and hugged Elena's legs, burying her face in the soft fabric of the billionaire's coat. Spasibo, she whispered, her voice muffled but filled with honest gratitude. Nikolai held his daughter close, the weight of relief and disbelief settling on his shoulders. For the first time in years, he felt hope, not borrowed or fleeting, but real and enduring. The little workshop wasn't just a room. It was a symbol that kindness could be rewarded, that struggles could be eased, and that the world could, in fact, bend toward good. Elena stood back, watching him explore the workshop, organizing tools, setting up shelves, and smiling in awe at the space that was now his. She realized that in giving, she had received far more than she could have imagined, a lesson in humility, humanity, and the transformative power of compassion. And for Nikolai, a single key had unlocked more than a door. It had unlocked a future filled with possibility, love, and the quiet triumph of a generous heart. Weeks passed, and the small workshop that Elena had entrusted to Nikolai became more than just a place to repair broken toys. It became a haven, a quiet sanctuary where laughter echoed against walls that had once only heard the hum of fluorescent lights and the shuffle of janitorial footsteps. Children from the building, from nearby apartments, even from across the neighborhood, began to trickle in after school. Some brought battered dolls, wind-up trains with missing wheels, or plush animals in desperate need of mending. Others came simply to watch, wide-eyed, as Nikolai worked, his hands skilled and gentle, his voice patient and full of quiet encouragement. Elena sometimes visited, not to oversee or manage, but to watch. She would lean against the doorway, observing Nikolai patiently showing the little boy how to wind a clockwork rabbit, explaining the delicate balance of gears and springs. She watched as Anya danced between the children, offering a helping hand, a comforting hug, or a contagious giggle. The workshop had become a community of hope, stitched together by the invisible thread of kindness that Nikolai had spun so effortlessly. For Elena, the lessons were profound. She had built an empire of wealth, yet here she saw a man who had built an empire of heart, and she realized that the true measure of influence was not in the number of zeros in a bank account but in the number of lives touched, the smiles restored, and the dreams rekindled. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, casting warm golden light across the workshop, Nikolai paused and looked around. He saw children carefully handing over broken toys, trusting him with their treasures. He saw laughter bouncing off the walls. He saw parents exchanging grateful smiles, knowing that someone cared. And he saw Elena standing quietly in the corner, eyes glistening, a small smile on her face. Tears welled up in his own eyes. "I never imagined," he whispered softly, more to himself than anyone else. "I never imagined it could be like this." Elena stepped forward, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "You made it happen," she said. "You showed the world that kindness can create miracles. I just helped open the door." Nikolai looked down at Anya, who was hugging her favorite repaired doll, her face bright with joy. And in that moment, he realized something he had always known, but had never seen so clearly reflected back at him. Love and selflessness are forces more powerful than money, more enduring than fame, and more transformative than any material gift. From that day on, the workshop thrived, and the story of the janitor and his little daughter spread quietly through the city. People began to understand that greatness was not always loud or visible. Sometimes, it whispered in the careful way a man repaired a toy, in the sleepless nights he spent ensuring a child's smile, and in the unwavering belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could change the world. Elena often left the workshop with a light heart, a renewed sense of purpose. Nikolai no longer walked the halls burdened by worry or exhaustion. He walked with hope, with pride, and with the knowledge that his love had multiplied, creating ripples of joy far beyond what he had ever imagined. And in that quiet, unassuming corner of the city, a single act of compassion had sparked a transformation, reminding everyone who heard the story that true wealth lies not in what we have, but in what we give. The world, in the hands of people like Nikolai, had never seemed brighter.